Hey there, I'm Felicia from Compass Land USA, your go-to resource for great deals on rural and vacant land. Are you looking to invest in land but keep getting tripped up over flood zones? It can be really messy to try to sort through it all. In this video, we're going to go over the different types of flood zones and what they each mean. So why do flood zones even matter when you're investing in land? These are areas that have a higher risk of flooding due to their location and topography. These zones are designated by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, and are based on flood risk from various sources, including topographic maps, flood insurance rate maps, and floodplain management regulations. So, quick distinction, a flood zone is an area that is at risk of flooding from nearby bodies of water, such as rivers, streams, coastlines. These areas are designated by FEMA and are divided into different risk categories based on the likelihood of flooding. A floodplain is a flat or low-lying area adjacent to a river, stream, or other body of water that's at risk of being flooded. So floodplains are typically formed by sediment deposited by the water body over time, and they're often characterized by their very flat, low-lying terrain. So to sum up, flood zones designated by FEMA and are based on the risk of flooding, whereas floodplains are not designated by FEMA and are physical features of the landscape. A property can be located in a flood zone, but not in a floodplain, or it can be located in a floodplain, but not in a designated flood zone. So flood zones are important to consider when investing in land because they can affect the value of the property and the insurance premiums required to protect it. Properties located in flood zones may be at a higher risk for flood damage, which can be costly to repair and disrupt the use of the property. As a result, insurance premiums for properties in flood zones may be higher, which can impact the overall cost of your ownership. Additionally, properties located in flood zones may be subject to certain regulatory restrictions, such as building codes, zoning requirements, which can affect the potential development of the land. So what are the different types of flood zones? You can see on the image here, there are a few different types. We have moderate, low risk, high risk coastal, and undetermined. So we're gonna look at each one of these in detail. A high risk flood zone, which is also known as a special flood hazard area, has a 1% or greater chance of flooding in any given year. It's also known as a 100-year flood zone. Properties located in high-risk flood zones are required to carry flood insurance. Within the high-risk flood zone category, we have several subtypes. So we have zone AE, A, AH, AO, and V. Again, these are required to carry flood insurance. These are areas that have been designated to have a high risk of flooding from a 100-year coastal flood. A moderate to low risk flood zone, which is also known as an area of minimal risk, has a lower risk of flooding than high risk flood zones. Properties located in moderate to low risk flood zones may not be required to carry flood insurance, but it might still be recommended. Within this category, we have several subtypes. So we have B, C, X, and D. Then we have the undetermined risk flood zones. These are areas that may still be at risk of sustaining a flood at least once every 100 years, but no analysis has yet been conducted in that area. Flood insurance is often still available in these undetermined zones, and its purchase is strongly advised. It's important to note that flood risk can vary significantly even with a single flood zone. It's always a good idea to check with a professional or your insurance company to determine the specific flood risk for your property. So you might be wondering which of these is the worst. And it's kind of difficult to determine which flood zone is the worst because the severity of a flood can depend on various factors such as the intensity and duration of rainfall, the topography of the area, and the infrastructure in place to mitigate flood damage. Additionally, different areas may be more or less vulnerable to flooding based on their geographic location, local weather patterns, and other factors. In general, high-risk flood zones do have a higher probability of flooding and are more likely to experience more severe flooding events. These areas may require property owners to purchase flood insurance, as we went over, and they will probably have stricter building codes and floodplain management regulations in place to reduce the risk of damage. However, even areas that are considered to be at lower risk of flooding can still experience those mass flooding events. And it's important for you as a property owner, as a landowner, to be aware of their flood risk and take the appropriate precautions. I hope you found this video helpful. There are many different types of flood zones and they aren't all the same. So hopefully now you understand a bit more about the different types of zones that exist, their severity, and what that means for you on your land investing journey. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. That way you're the very first to know when a new land blog video or custom property tour has been published. And if you want to start your land buying journey, you can call or text us 313-349-0434. We'll be happy to help you out. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.